welcome to tonight's meeting of the Armada Village Council. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance of the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll take the roll.
Clark?
Here.
Conan?
Here.
Adair? Here. Sleds?
Here.
Belkey?
Here.
Okay. Can we have you've had a look at the agenda? Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Clark, supported by Belkey. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have any citizen comments? Moving on, good. Now we have a presentation here from Roe.
No, I think it's gonna be from Chris, isn't it?
It's with me, and then obviously, and then we brought Paul in as the, but I'll stand up, you can go.
Yeah.
Or comments, so I figured out, at the last council, I mentioned it 2 council meetings ago, last council meeting, we handed out the report for everyone to review. As expected, the goal was for us to review the roads, the streets, the sewers, roads, streets, water and sewers, plans in terms of our own, all of the various data that was collected, to have Roe go through that, analyze it objectively, and then come up with a rating system for each of those projects, and then a cumulative, and then rank order them, let's say 1 to 100. And at this point, we started, looked at the core dollar value of the project estimated in today's dollars. Not necessarily, future dollars, but the idea is to see where we were, and not totally different than what we had from previous, estimates from ourselves, as well as when we had F&B do some work for us as well. Going further, and that's what this will lead in, once see if there's any questions in that. I think, as I mentioned to Ann, and then with our CIP committee, then would continue on with this, after this effort would be, okay, now, let's look at year-over-year priority plans, and let's start putting those things in play. And then see where we need to for, bonds or other money situations, so. And did that sound about right? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Paul, good description?
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee Sleds.
Okay, thank you. Are there any immediate questions or things anyone wanted to bring up on the information that was provided? Ross, Steve in particular, as contributors?
I do have a question or two, but I'll let you go ahead, Paul, first, Chris, and then I can ask him. I thought the report was pretty decent, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't have much more to add. I think Trustee Sleds summarized it real well to keep it short. We do have a small amount of money left in our budget that we agreed to, but I did want to have this chance to approach the council and see if there's anything in particular that you wanted us to dive into any further to help round this out for you.
Yeah, I'll ask my question now then, Paul. It's, I know we've come to the conclusion, it's, blinding flash of the obvious, that we need to do infrastructure work in a comprehensive way, if at all possible. So you do a street, and if it's got a bad water line, sewer line, storm line underneath it, you try to do those at the same time, so you don't lay in a new street and then 3 months later you're tearing it up to do a water line that you ignored. We're finding that the cost of this stuff is ginormous, I guess, to use a technical term. It's a big cost. Even down to the individual street segments and water and sewer line segments is high. From just a water standpoint, principal criteria for replacing a water line in a lot of the whole sections of the village was because it was undersized. We've not necessarily looked at the condition of the line, I don't think in our water studies, just more so that a 4-inch line is insufficient for a modern community. Is there a mechanism that we can use in the future to look at these lines and see if if a 4-inch line, if it's working okay and not deteriorating, that we can, keep it there for a period of time, or do we still need to plan to do streets,
Mhm.
and then maybe any future water line work just goes in the green belt? You don't consider tearing up the street again, but it goes in the green belt as money becomes available. So a bit of a complicated question, but we may not be able to do water lines or sewer lines right away. May be incumbent upon us to do some streets. So is there a way to check water lines for interior condition if they're undersized?
Yeah, typically it's not done, when you've got a 4-inch pipe, which is pretty small. You're to cut those open, there's gonna be a lot of rust inside, so your actual space
2-inch.
to try to insert a camera through there, if that's what you
Yeah.
want to try to do, would be difficult. Plus, you've gotta cut it open to get the camera in there. It's not like a sewer where you've got manholes.
Right,
So it's a tough process to try to inspect it inside. Plus, you gotta shut everybody down
yes,
for that period, and then there's, contaminants introduced, so it's a difficult process.
okay, so that's why.
But on the positive side, I would say the sewer is probably the more serious one of the two, because there are issues out there that were identified with the inspections that were done in 2015. With respect to the water, you really don't have many breaks, per se. You're not going around chasing a lot of.
Right, we've got that one line at the wastewater treatment plant that
Right.
seems to be breaking, so that would be a focus, but these other lines seem to be working, albeit that they're old and they're undersized.
They are old, they're undersized, but I don't think you're getting a lot of complaints about lack of pressure or fire flows.
Yeah.
Are still adequate, because you've got a small system and you've got the pressure.
Yeah, so can we assume that those can remain good for a while? I don't know what a while means, but,
I
get
would
to,
say the water is less critical than the sewer in the street.
okay, all right. I'm gonna stop asking
So,
long questions, because it is complicated.
No, that's true, but that goes again too, where do we start? Now, the next steps with the committee is, okay, now how do we wanna start planning this out and lay it
Yeah.
out? Versus also too, where we can get monies,
Right,
or how we can get
Yeah.
monies,
that's the big part.
and then go from there with it.
Which it's a recognition, if you do water and under street sewer and water lines, I mean, it's, the cost per street's gonna be higher than if you just do the street surface or the road bed.
But again, like on the northwest side, if that's something we wanted to target, again, not saying it is, but it's an opportunity, that's where you do temporary things, right? You can come in and if the streets do crumble to nothing anyways, then just go ahead and crush it down and basically leave it as a gravel type road until that time.
Yeah,
But it can be a reasonable surface though,
yes,
to drive and whatnot, but at least then you're not tearing it out, to putting, and then to take it back out, or trying to figure out how to reroute water into a different area, or sewer for that matter. So again, that stuff I think is for the next steps here. Since we got a list, now it's a matter of how do you wanna break that down? And then to, again, sources of funding and when those funding sources can become available for us, and then go from there.
I've got a
well, that's
question.
kind of what my question is. Okay, we know this year we're doing First and Seconds. What do you, Paul, and the committee suggest we do next? What's our next step? Realizing that we definitely have money considerations. We really, I don't think, have it, especially in the water, where we can put new water lines in.
Did we have it, that's I think for the
committee.
committee for us to go next.
Okay,
Well,
you don't have that road identified.
No.
Like I always wondered, like out here, like, from down
Segments of
Burke
Burke,
Street, from the bridge, there, that little short stretch, why we couldn't, I don't know, use crushed gravel or something, there.
We're gonna have to look at all the above, again, and we have it broken down into segments, that way too, that was to help us. When we did the study, and for example, Burke is one, and then there's a confounding part, is if, Church turns into a major street instead of a local.
For a little bit.
For the stretch to Torrey, right, but anyway, from north of, Main Street, we broke it down to that, to Lathrop to the bridge to the, Armada Center. Because they had different conditions and whatnot, and so therefore we can look at how we break things down further and what makes sense. Because we don't have an answer, although we have data in front of us to be able to, and a committee to be able to go through those and make recommendations to council as to what we think
Are we
we
not
could do, or what it would
after
cost.
some grants already though for the future?
We will be when they come out. They're due June, I think is the next ones they come out.
The category B.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to bother because you likely.
Exactly, because
Or
we just got.
Just got
We're working, right, but still, they can't.
You know, I know it's great to look 5-6 years down the road, but I'd really like to see us have a plan for 2 years,
Mhm.
which means this year and next year.
Mhm.
In other words, this summer and next summer.
Correct.
That's just my thinking.
But, and Chris said we don't have any answers, but we do have that spreadsheet that shows which streets rank the highest, but that was based on making water, sewer, and street all equal priority. So if you wanna change the priorities and
That's what we'll do.
downplay the water, then
Committee next.
that might change.
Well, I think the streets, to me, are the priority.
Mhm.
But I mean, if
Yeah, but they
if
don't
we
wanna
think that
fix the
lines
street.
are really bad, well, of course you don't
Right.
want them.
Well, is it, I guess it's problematic depending upon the street, but I think in some cases you can put water and sewer in the green belt if there's enough green belt there and it's not encumbered by trees, and maybe it's more of a problem to do that, but I think that's a potential option. So you talk about down here on Burke,
There's a
that
lot of
section,
room there.
I think everything that goes past the bridge is in the green belt,
Yeah.
so that makes it an easy road surface potentially to replace.
That's what I've been thinking.
But I mean, that's the beauty of the analysis, is you can go in there and start to look at that. It's just that we don't wanna forget when we do streets, that if there's water and sewer under it, you may not wanna do that, because if there's no other place to put it but under the street, and he's got a bad sewer line, or I got a bad water line, it may behoove us to hold off
And do
instead
the
of
other streets.
But
that
putting
we need.
lipstick on a pig and then coming back and digging it
Plus,
back up.
you know, you can't put any water lines in. But what you're already forecasting for the water department, you can't put any water lines in.
Well, but that's our job, is to figure out, okay, can I do something every couple years? And I save for it, and then we collectively pick a project that is within reach to do it. For example, I have to consider his water line to the wastewater treatment plant. That would be a bad line to go down. And that's busted 4 times over the last couple of years, and so I have to focus on it. Now, the unfortunate thing is, nobody's really driving on it other than the people going to the wastewater treatment
Well,
plant.
when we empty the sludge tanks, then I've got big tanker trucks.
Yeah, yeah. So, we got, yeah, it's gonna be difficult, and I mean, that's when people talk to me, I tell them it is complicated. It's, we've gotten to the next level, which is great. Over the last couple of years, we've gotten to the next point. We know it's bad, we know where it's bad, we now have a good idea of what the priority should be, we have dollar figures attached to it. Now we're at the toughest point. Where do you find the money and how do you do it?
Now,
With that
can
being
you
said-
help us on that, getting money?
Is there any upcoming
There's not a lot of
federal?
grant opportunities out there. Armada's got that relatively high,
What is it?
Medium income.
About medium,
Income.
average,
household income.
household
You know,
income.
I read the paper every day.
Mhm.
In the state of Michigan, the governor, they've been bragging about all their excess money.
Oh, I know.
They brag
wanna
about
give it
it.
to us,
How do we get some of that?
yeah.
I'll talk to your representatives.
How
Probably the first thing.
We can't even get them here.
Yeah.
Right,
It's, again, we
Or call
wanna fix those blanking roads.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Vote the governor.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, we talked,
Well,
with
the
the
ARPA
committee, we
money's
talked
good.
about, a millage exploration, and you can bond, which means going into debt well into the future, which I know you've done some in the past.
And
Yeah, we
You
just
know-
did with the sewer plant.
we were looking at something like this a while back, just maybe 10 years or so. And some people in the council wanted to take out $1 million bond to do
Mhm.
some roads. And some of us opposed it. And they did all their projections and it looked like you could do it. But myself, I never felt really good, like we have to do a sewer, work or water work, those things have to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, roads don't always have to. And so we chose not to do that bond. Which there was quite a lot of disagreement on the council over it. But as it turned out, that was on when all the property values dropped down.
Yeah,
And we would have had a real mess to pay that bond off.
sure.
So, personally, just speaking for myself, I'm pretty hesitant to go into a bond
Mm-hmm.
for roads.
Well, the
But-
still thing though is, when you're talking about that bond, we still have the second half of that bond, or that project, to be bonded. So we know that bond's coming up. And as soon as Eagle says, this is what I want you to do this year, this year, this year, this year, we're gonna be obligated. So regardless of everything else that's going on, that we're projecting that we could do a bond for, we know that bond's sitting in the shed.
You're talking wastewater.
The sewer plant,
Yeah.
the other half of the sewer plant,
Well,
the lines.
but Paul's
Yeah.
mentioning a millage, I mean, it might be worth asking the voters, would they, to get roads done, would they support? Some
One
additional-
mil gets you about 30 or 40 grand.
I got
So
it.
it
I-
would
I
take
got
an
it.
awful lot of, a big
I-
increase.
Yeah, no, I got it. And you would have to assure them that something would get done on a, I don't know, every other year basis, or, pick a road, but you gotta chip away at it, otherwise you just lose the battle, and you're gonna wind up with
That's why,
local streets that
myself,
are.
I say we should do some of the roads, not the underground. I mean, right now, we're using them water lines and sewer lines. Now, I realize it's not the ideal way, but
Yeah,
I would do some of that.
well, yeah, based upon a good risk assessment, so Paul is making me feel a little bit better about.
I thought you guys were gonna have some of that, I'm sorry, but I thought you were gonna have some of them answers
No,
now.
that's what they're bringing back.
Well,
Do-
in the document here,
Yeah.
what's priorities and what's not. I mean, we don't have to go by that, but, again, it gives you a good ballpark figure, like guesstimation, oh, maybe that road's 100,000 or whatever. You don't know until you read this stuff. So at least you can put a number to something.
You can make an educated
Yeah.
guess now
Turn it
about
down a block.
what you have to do and what amount of money you gotta pull together. So, again, if nothing else, I think you gotta commit to, hey, we're gonna do a stretch of something at the rough cost of $250,000 to $500,000, whatever, whether it's street only or street with water, sewer and storm or whatever. You almost gotta commit to it as a council, otherwise it will just continue to deteriorate and you will
I think we could
never-
do some road, but I don't
Catch
think
up.
we could do the water and sewer.
Well,
Well,
that's what
is-
you mentioned, $1 million bond 10 years ago, and do some streets. So to put it in perspective now, to do First and Simons, if we did all of the project, the sewer and the water and the roads, it's $1.3 million to
Yeah.
just
So
do.
it's two little
Yeah.
blocks.
Yeah.
And that's why the
Yeah.
council decided to not do the sewer and water, because we can't afford it.
But that bond wasn't gonna be to do underground, that bond was only
Just
gonna,
the
was
surface.
above ground.
Right.
Right.
And you are unfortunately still up against the COVID cost changes that have really put.
Yeah, they, I don't think they've.
Or the
Well,
double the material.
Now, what
costs,
else
or not double.
do we need to ask Paul about here, or what could he, help clarify for anybody?
I would just add, and this is something that you and I can work, you know, we're getting ready to do another water reliability study. So in the reliability study, is there a way to, I guess it would be scope work, but prioritize the 4-inch lines and the 6-inch lines that we say we should replace to try to identify what would be the worst of the worst, and again, so I have, or whoever the next water commissioner is, has an idea of where they gotta focus their attention. Because I'm with you, if we got lines that are old, but they seem to be okay, and they're not breaking all the pieces like the one that we just talked about, then maybe you leave them. But even I have to, or the next water commissioner has to plan for replacement over time. You can't just let it go until you're popping leaks all over the village. You have to consider it. So is that something that we could do under that reliability study where you can, I don't know how you do it if you don't have maps that tell you when it went in.
Well, actually, we did that with the last reliability study, and the system really hasn't changed, so the answers would likely be the same as what they were.
Okay, no, that's good, then we can,
So you already got that.
okay, and I'll work with you on the next one that we do, just
Sure.
to address that. Okay.
But I know that, Ann, one of the things you were gonna do was to have some conversations for long-term funding with, your accountant and the attorney. And I don't know if any of that, netted any good information, but I think from my perspective, it might be helpful if you wanna try to establish like a certain dollar amount that I think the village could spend every 2 years, say, on roads, then we can, if we got a target
Yeah.
of what you wanna spend, then we could take this list and probably
Yeah.
give you some street segments that are obviously the worst right now, like,
Right, even the smallest ones, like
Right.
Burke Street, not like we've ignored all the streets that are bad. Burke Street, we actually had the project planned and in progress to go. And if you remember we were going to crush and grind, and the company that,
No, that was the tire.
Yeah,
That was the
rubber.
rubber.
Oh,
rubber.
rubber.
Yeah, the rubber.
tire, and then moved too far
Yeah.
away,
Yeah.
And we couldn't get it.
it would have set up by the time it got here.
Well, see,
So-
that's what I always said about, like, Riley Center. You know, I don't know what that is where they roll the rocks into it.
Right.
That thing's lasted, there's trucks on that all the time. You do our little side streets and something like that, they'll last forever.
Right,
you mean like a chip seal?
Yeah,
Mhm.
But
I mean-
you do have to have a good base too. I mean, you look at some of
That's
our roads and it's
exactly-
such a,
so
such a
that's not,
patchwork of stuff
Yeah,
on
You have to
there.
grind up what's there first
Yeah.
to create a base, but then you could chip seal it.
exactly, and that's what they had to do
And
with
that would save
Hopper.
money.
Yeah, but I mean, those are heavily trafficked
Heavy
with
traffic.
semis, you know?
Yeah.
That's,
The chip seal tends to only last like 10 or 15 years.
But then they'll
but
just come
what you,
over,
but
give
yeah,
them more
but
tar
I
and
mean,
more
yeah,
stuff.
what I'm
and
thinking
they
is
just
if you
fire.
could do the 7 miles of local street that we have or whatever, and something like that.
Right.
And then they're all done, and then you start focusing on, okay, we've gotta replace the water and sewer on this one this year. So how much is that gonna cost?
So you
You know, but I don't know
less expensive road.
how is chip sealing, how is that by the mile, is that by the road condition? I mean, how do they base that price?
Yeah, I think it's priced by the square yard.
Square yard.
So
I mean,
some roads are wider.
You know,
than
I mean, I said that for years, it's like, and I don't know if it's even feasible, I don't.
Well,
But
again,
if
I
you
think
have
that-
all the roads done and then, okay, we gotta do a sewer line and a water line in a couple years, so we'll do this street and just do the water and redo the whole thing. If it's cheap enough, maybe it's
Yeah.
not, maybe it's exorbitant, I have no idea, I'm not.
Right, you're still, yeah, we're still gonna be, and again, we'll go through that as we
Yeah.
keep the exercise movement, but you're up against the current ground condition, and then in fact, there's no edge draining or anything like that that goes with it too. so,
Okay.
But
yeah.
still, if you're doing a project that you know somewhere down the road, I'm gonna have to tear this up because we've got to put in the water and sewer. I'd rather tear up a chip and grind or a chip and seal
Mhm.
than a full project of asphalt.
Absolutely, and that's, we know it, but that's what,
Yeah.
we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah.
We'll get Ann to start scheduling again, we'll start our kind of committee sessions again.
And if you
So
can,
we'll continue to
Bring us
bring
an idea of the
recommendations to
cost.
council. Now, Ann, I know presented with the budget, she did like each year, a little CIP worksheet to start off with, and that's kind of what I figured, just build upon that, and what is it, what's it gonna be? What do we think?
Yeah.
And then we'll bring those to council.
Yeah, I would though agree with Paul that I think we have to have lay out a draft schedule. It can always change as the money's there or not there, but to try to commit to doing something on some regular basis. I think the public, surprised, because people were beating me this weekend about some of that stuff, that there's nobody here but Kevin, but I keep hearing about it. They want the streets fixed, and so we need to provide them with a possible path forward that changes based upon the financial conditions that we find ourselves in.
Actually,
That's what we're doing.
we've done a lot, but nobody would agree with that. We've done North and South Fulton, we've done East and West Main Street, we've done
Spencer.
Lathrop Street, we're now doing First and Simon Street.
Yeah,
So Spencer, that's quite a while ago, but yeah.
No, hasn't been
No,
that
that wasn't as far back as North and.
We
No.
did Floral too, but that was quite a while ago.
long. Florals has held up
25
beautifully.
years.
Yeah, Florida, right, well, yeah, that was before a fair.
But what else
That
do we
held
need,
up great.
you know, what else do we need to accomplish tonight yet?
That's it.
Nothing, no.
No, that was it, just if there was any
So-
specific feedback, any specific questions, if we,
I think mainly
Yeah,
we're
Mr.
really
Mark,
trying to
and
get,
then now, like I said, I presented what I think our next step would be is to get back.
especially what we wanna do, if we wanna do anything in addition to what we're already doing this year and what we wanna do next year, so that, like you said, and I agree with you, Ross, we need to tell people, yeah, we're planning on trying to get this done the next couple of years.
Subject to
All the
money.
grants out there.
Yeah.
So,
This one, sooner or later.
Would you like us to try to develop that, like an average price per square yard for to grind up the road that exists today? And
Sure.
get a chip seal?
Yeah,
well,
Yeah.
one of the things I didn't hear you say that I like to hear you say, like Michelle brought that up. You didn't jump on that and say, hey, that's really a good idea, you know, because you don't have that much traffic going there, you know, you just,
The chip seal?
we're looking for your expertise.
Yeah.
No, that works. I
You're our
actually-
engineering guys, we're looking for your expertise.
Right, but again,
Not
let's take it to the
Michelle's.
committee, and there's a lot more that goes into that decision than simply just a
That's a great
cost of
question.
this. There's a lot else that goes on with the current condition of the ground,
Right.
soil borings and stuff that are gonna tell us the effectiveness of it, and that wouldn't be fair to put someone on the spot for that. That's why I did told not to be more in addressing that. At this time, let's get it, you know, again, it's in front of council, you know what we're looking at. Everyone can see the current priorities set up and dollar values attached to it. As we get back together to make individual recommendations, you can see everything come together.
So the,
And like I said, and if no one objected, the way Ann was doing the budget setup of the year over year with the CA, that's probably not a bad form. And it kind of goes with what you were saying, is we already know this year, what's next year, year after, you know, it's already.
well, we can tell people we're doing something this year.
Yeah.
But if the committee is Ann, Steve, and you with me,
Me.
Chris, and then we got Miss Barzak,
Amy and
Amy, and we
Mike.
got Mike,
Mike hasn't-
St. John.
he showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just the first one.
He came to the first one.
And what,
about that today.
Amy would have been here, but her mom was ill and she couldn't make it.
Yeah, she's been.
So
consistent.
I'm gonna move on unless somebody has a question for Paul. Paul, you're welcome to stay,
But if you-
but you don't, I don't want you to feel obligated.
Well, I'll just look at the.
Okay, so moving on to administrative reports. You got a DPW report, Chris?
No, he
removal.
doesn't give that, that's, Chris, Dave turns that in.
What?
Dave turns that in every month.
Oh,
I
okay.
review it and make sure.
Okay, it's
You
in
don't
here,
need to
that's
read it,
Dave's.
I don't need to read it though.
No.
Then we've got the planning commission in there.
We also got their minutes, I got those later after I.
Okay.
Got the FMV report.
But do you have anything else you wanna say, Chris?
Planning commission. No.
Okay, good. How about you, Ross?
Yeah, from a water standpoint, again, just, I think council is aware, but we did submit the grant, for the request for the technical, managerial, and financial grant from Eagle for identification of lead service lines, $61,000 and change, have not received a response yet. Paul, do you by any chance have an idea when they were, it was gonna be quick turnaround on deciding that you just, I don't know what the date was when.
No, I didn't hear there.
I thought it was February, not later than March, because they're
Yeah.
trying to.
I would think they're gonna wanna pick it up. I don't know if you've heard that EPA is moving towards getting only a 10-year window to replace all the lead.
For a lead line, yeah. Is that fully effective
I
now? or
don't
is
think
it-
it's, well, I think it's still in the talking stage, but that's, I think where the industry's headed now.
But I suspect it's gonna hit it, so we get, Eagle, in the past, we've talked about this, Eagle has given us, the state has given us 20 years, and we're already about 4 years into it. We've not replaced any lines because we've had other things in water to focus our attention on, and now we're hearing it's gonna be 10 years, so I'm not quite sure if I'm 10 years and 4 years in, or
I
if the
think it will be a
clock's-
new 10 years, hopefully it's not retroactive.
which may give us 15 years total.
Mhm.
We don't quite know, but the time limit's gonna be shorter, which just tells you the amount of importance that the EPA and the state are putting on lead service line replacement. I was gonna put an item in here, we talked a little bit about it last time. I pulled it, just because we're rechecking our numbers, but to operate the water treatment plant and the other waterworks facilities on off-peak hours. I believe we can save upwards of about $3,500 a year. Our costs now, yearly costs are about $14,000 for electricity. And I think I can save about $3,500 a year by running the facilities overnight, and that requires reprogramming the SCADA system that we have. But I gotta go back and I gotta check our numbers. DTE doesn't make it easy to figure out what your rates are, so going back to check, I'm hoping to bring it to council at the next meeting. We just received our Eagle annual water monitoring schedule for this coming year, so I will be going back out every 3 years. We check for, we've got some houses in the village that we check for potential lead issues, and so we're gonna do those this year, as well as the other standard chemical testing that we do in the village, and the consumer confidence report for water will be coming out in another 2 months. So I just let people know to keep an eye on that. That tells you what's in the water in the village. Again, I'm gonna say it, we got great quality water in the village. You may not like the taste, but there's a big difference there. Quality versus taste. Taste is subjective, quality is objective because it's going through a lab and it's being sampled. We've got great water in the village. People that complain, you may wanna check and see if you have a water filter in your house that you haven't changed for about 20 years. That could be part of the problem. Anyway, consumer confidence report will go out, and we adjust that based upon current activities in the village, so at least yearly you get an idea of where we're focusing our attention. And you can expect to see lead service line identification replacement being high up on the report. Okay, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Ross.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more alibi. We did get the assessment report on the water tower. This was done in October. Just got it, and minimal issues that I'm seeing, that's what I expected. Potential paint issue that we have to look at, exterior paint, but otherwise the tower's in good shape. We have identified April for the chemical cleaning of the water tower, so we've got some dates in there that we're
Do
locking
not let
in.
them hurt that tiger either.
Tiger is alive and well on the backside of that tower.
Yeah.
So, so we've communicated that with USG, who's our water tower guy, and that's when we expect to do it. And again, we had to delay that to get the variable frequency drive in. Now that it's in, it's working well, the tower can be clean. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you.
Steve?
Everybody's got the F&V report at the sewer plant. One of the big items in the lead there, in one day, we treated over 1 million gallons of water when we had a rain event and melting snow. So that's like 3 times the amount that we normally treat down there.
And we treated it all.
Yes, we treated it and we stayed within our permit, but it was getting close. Water was quite deep in there, so.
Water.
Yeah, the January precipitating, that was big.
Yeah, in January, we had over 5 inches, so in that one day, we had over an inch plus all the melting snow. So.
My vacant lot has more than 5 inches.
So I've got a lot more infiltration than I
Crazy.
think, so
Well,
I have to check on that, but other than
hopefully
that.
that, some of the, the new equipment we got in there help with this,
Well,
Changing
the
that
new
much.
computer system, it automatically went into storm mode where it cycles the water through because it's so diluted, it doesn't have to take as long in the tanks as it has, so. Again, you're treating a bunch of rainwater that you really don't have to, but.
we got this.
Other than that, there's a few minor things down there with a blower motor going in the room and a few other things that are taken care of. So the guys are on top of it. I'm real happy with the new immediate supervisor down there, and they interviewed somebody that's supposed to be trained down there, probably starting in the first couple weeks of March, so looking forward to that. And so is he, so he can move around to other
Right,
plants.
that was my-
Yeah.
That cover you?
Yep.
Now, Ross, is this yours, as independent contractor policy?
Yeah, I asked Michelle where the best place to put this was, since there's no motion, it's just a discussion. And she said, we'll stick it in,
So we're not doing
Administrative.
anything official on that.
No.
we're not, but I just, this is all stemming from the one past employee that one of our employees contacted. It wasn't a supervisor, it wasn't me, they contacted him, and then the employee decided that they wanted to charge us for it. It's probably a one-off event. However, as Jeff has indicated, we probably need to have at least a policy or have some consideration of a template for when we use consultants, whoever they may be, because there's a couple of issues that come out of it. You gotta pay taxes on them, and whoever you're talking to, who's responsible if something goes south on you, if there's a major issue because you took a consultant's advice. So a company like Rowe, they've got insurance. These independent consultants may not have any insurance, and so if we just up and do something that they say, we may have a significant negative impact as a result of it. So,
An independent contractor wouldn't cause any taxes.
or
An
if-
independent contractor would be.
It's on them.
well, it's on them, but what
I'm
we're
an
doing
independent
is,
contractor when it comes to umpiring.
Yeah,
if you read the 3 examples that Jeff Pohorsky sent, in all of them, it's got something which indicates that the contractor is responsible to pay his own taxes,
right.
and he signs off on that so that we don't get hammered at the end of the year by the auditor because we did, or the state because we didn't pay appropriate taxes. So Jeff would say you need something that clarifies that requirement.
But, in a way, to me, we made a mountain out of a molehill. And Jeff didn't really come with this, this is something we kinda pushed onto him. But, anyhow, it's
Well,
something
he
that-
recommends it, I'm just telling you,
I
so.
was there. But anyhow, it's something for the council to consider. If you have a document, anybody has a document, we would have to list that under like new business, and, it would have to be voted on.
Well, he wasn't ready to vote on it yet, that's
Yeah,
why.
this
Yeah,
is just a
it's not-
consideration.
Yeah, I wanted to get your opinions.
Yeah.
One thing that we do need to do, and I've already done it from a water perspective, I said absolutely no DPW employee is calling somebody without the DPW superintendent or my knowledge about it.
In
So
this case, it was,
it was not an emergency and the employee was not aware of
but The
our
emergency-
emergency SOP, which tells them what to
But
do.
you know, your supervisor wasn't there, your commissioner wasn't here. And so this guy felt all alone and he tried to take care of a situation.
I would have been
And he
happy if he
should've let
would
go.
have called you though, or if he would have called
Yeah.
Steve or called Chris.
Yeah,
It's just
Right.
there needs to be a process, because I wound up paying out of my budget for something I wasn't aware of and I didn't agree with, although I supported it, because it's a past
you
employee.
paid other things out of your budget, you didn't agree with me either, but, anyhow, moving on.
So
That's something
take a
for
look at it,
consideration.
Let me know
We
what you
talked
think.
about this is not the first time this subject came up, so everybody knows what to
So what are you
think
gonna
about
do next,
there.
Ross, with this?
So,
Where's it going?
I'll probably independently poll you guys. Do you feel unless you can tell me now, if you don't feel any further actions warranted, I would like to see some kind of a template or a purpose-driven contract written up for this. It doesn't have to be long, just to cover ourselves. And again, this particular time was a one-off. I think in the future, you may have opportunity for more when all of us oldies start retiring. And we may want money for,
So which template and who can sign into it?
the one that I particularly liked, just because it covered most of the bases and it had spaces to add things in, was Jeff's contract. The other two were for specific village employees that we did hurriedly to bring people on board that we hadn't expected to. So it does happen. It's not often, but it does happen. So I would just say, let's take Jeff's contract, I can ask Jeff, do we absolutely need this paragraph or that paragraph? And this just serves as a template, and you can alter it as needed to bring somebody on, and it lays out the responsibilities. And one thing that's not in there is liability. Who owns it if we do something that they advise us to do? I think we do. I think at the end of the day, we
Can I just
Okay,
ask
well-
a question? Because in this particular situation, this person was not available to come in and fill out a form. It was handled by phone.
I got it. I
So
wouldn't have done
How would
it.
we have handled that?
If I had been on the phone, I would have said, stop.
we
cease and
beat
desist.
this to death. That situation probably won't come up again. It may, something similar, we're gonna look at this,
Right,
but I don't wanna keep going back to that one time.
right.
We
I don't,
beat-
that's
we
probably
beat
a
that to
one-off,
death.
yes.
Uh,
So,
So,
let me know what you think about this.
moving on, Joe, do you have anything for the police department today?
No.
No.
Hold on for a second.
Okay, so, moving on
Alright.
to general,
Consent agenda.
so, I need an approval for the consent agenda.
Motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Clark,
No.
or
No.
motion by Melky, supported by Clark.
I'll support
I didn't.
Yeah,
hear
thank
Clark,
you.
but okay.
Yeah, he just did a
I
silent.
just mumbled.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the consent agenda passes, old business. None, moving on to new business. MML property pool, is that yours,
So every year we have to, accept the renewal, approve it. You'll notice that, I mean, the costs did go up, that, like we talked about when I gave you guys the new, appraisals on all the village
Yeah,
property.
everything.
I was surprised that it only raised 4,500, I thought it would be more than that, but, that's the cost, so I need
All
a
right.
motion.
Well, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the MML liability and property pool renewal for the 2024-2025 term for a cost not to exceed $49,968.
Support.
okay?
Roll
Yep.
call?
Okay, Sleds,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
hang on. Sleds was one, sorry, Chris, I just have two. Belkey,
Yes.
Conan,
Yes,
Adair,
Yes.
motion's approved. Okay, well, we have an opening on the console. So we have to advertise for a new member, right? Right now, we do have a written request. Somebody's turned in a letter that they would like to be considered. If you know of somebody from the village that would like to be considered, have them turn a letter in. But what else do we want on this? Michelle?
Did we have to adjust the date?
Yes, okay, so I guess, one
Oh,
discussion that we need to have is how soon are you looking to appoint? Yeah, I think it's probably, if you want to accept letters of interest for, a couple weeks, I had put in the ad, deadline for letters of interest is March 20th. So it's incorrect in the motion, but the actual public notice, I did get this in the paper already because we do have to do this. So,
okay, yeah, you're right.
I did, letters of interest till March 20th, so you could possibly appoint at the March 25th meeting. Or you can wait until the April meeting,
I thought we had to do it at the 13th, oh, I'm sorry, I thought we had to do it before April, if you were gonna work this.
well, if
approve
you,
the
Approve
if
the
you want,
budget, yeah.
yeah,
You've got a sticky situation
We do
for
have a
the
sticky-
March 25th
we
meeting.
do.
Because I cannot be here for that. And Mike's not sure if he'll be back or not.
So you will have 4 members of council, and as long
Which
as,
is fine.
the vote is unanimous for the budget, then,
Doesn't
It's
put it on the
okay.
motion. Yeah.
if we appoint somebody
The first meeting of March.
the first meeting of March, which then my public notice is incorrect.
Here we are.
I don't know, I guess I don't know what.
I thought we should
We
move
could
it.
appoint somebody to the 25th, at the 25th meeting,
And
and they can vote on the budget. I did talk to Jeff about that, because if Mike were here, he would vote on the budget, and he hasn't been here through the budget hearings either, or workshops. So, I talked to Jeff about whether the new person could vote on the budget approval at that meeting, and he said yes, that they can, because they're a member of council.
But you can't appoint him that night and have him voting that night.
You can. But it's up to you guys, look,
Can-
four,
can-
4 is enough, 4 is enough, unfortunately, not all motions, depending on what it is. The budget requires a majority of council, okay? Not a majority of the people that are here, which in other motions, like lesser important motions, that is fine. It would be if 3 people voted it, 1 voted no, it's okay. For the budget itself, it has to be a majority of council. Well, if Mike's not here and Dave isn't here, the only people that are present are a majority of council. It's 4 of you. So, we're kind of in a sticky situation. Now, I know when you talked to Mike, he said he didn't know, and I talked to Mike, he said, well, I could be
Oh,
here, this,
we
this, or
can check
this.
with him again.
We'll check
too.
with him again.
I think we gotta tell him we gotta have him here.
Well, you can tell him that.
I will, I don't mind.
But, no, it's just sticky. We can't change the date of the meeting. Dave asked if we could do that. We cannot. It's already been advertised. It's already set. We've been, the budget meeting is always the second meeting of March. It's just not a good look.
You wanna keep it at the 20th then, is that what you recommend?
25th.
I think we should keep it at the 20th, and then, if you talked, we might have to have a special meeting. Maybe we can have a special meeting to interview the people, so we're not doing it at the meeting. When do you leave?
Could do that.
Oh, wait, that's what I'm looking here.
Guess it depends if you get another,
Right,
The
exactly.
meeting's the 25th.
Yes, the meeting is the
Yeah.
25th.
Yeah, I'll be gone.
I know, you're gone the 25th. Are you here after the 20th? When do you leave?
Oh, I'm not leaving, I think, till the 23rd.
So maybe we can have a special meeting.
say, plan on it.
and then you can interview the candidates. We may not get any more, you know how, we don't generally get a lot of interest, I'm sorry, but we don't. We do have one, you know, but,
Well, you know what?
it's open to the public to
Our
apply.
next meeting, should have a pretty good idea. Maybe we can set up a special meeting that week before,
Yeah,
one day, have a very short meeting.
yeah,
You can ask any questions of the candidates, they
Yeah.
can come here, and then that way,
usually what we've done in the past is just had them read, you know,
And
a
I'm gonna-
statement of why they're.
I'm
why
gonna
they're
talk to
interested.
Mike too.
Yeah.
Mike, Mike's a pretty cooperative guy.
Yeah, but you hate to tell him to cut his vacation short.
short.
You know.
That's a long
It
vacation.
is.
He's at a long vacation, I don't mind asking him.
Well, then I would make a motion to authorize the village clerk to advertise in the record for letters of interest from village electors interested in being considered for the vacancy in the elective office of village trustee through April,
No, March
March,
20th,
20th.
March
20th,
2024, with interviews to be conducted
at a later date set by council.
at a later date set by council. Period, right?
Yeah,
I think that, you can strike that other.
Support.
set by council. That way, it leaves you guys open to,
Yeah.
we'll have a special meeting possibly.
You got,
You
you
know
got
what?
some time to be flexible.
Excuse me, but rather than the 20th, if you had to get it in by the 18th.
I have
Then you could-
already
It's already-
put in the paper the 20th.
Okay,
It's
so then we'll
already
have a
advertised.
special meeting the 21st or the 22nd.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
who seconded that?
Clark.
I did.
Okay.
She's a beauty, Clark.
All in favor?
You guys be thinking about what day to have that special meeting, 21st, 22nd. Let me know, because we'll do it at our next meeting.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Call,
Okay.
call for vote.
Oh, okay, we did.
Need your vote.
All in favor of the motion?
I
Opposed? Motion's approved. Okay, set a public hearing date to consider an ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 8, Section 8-1 of the Village Code to change the compensation for the village president and trustees. That would also probably be the, when do we wanna, can we have that the next meeting?
No, you would have this at the 11th, the meeting of, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's the budget.
The 25th.
You put the 25th.
Oh, I gave you the budget one, I didn't give you the one I typed up. So, yeah, I mean, yes, the 25th, that's the same night as the budget, just include it in the budget. We'll just include it in the budget, and if it doesn't pass, then
And all the budget is to.
Okay, just,
it would be too much, it wouldn't
so
matter.
people understand,
It matters if it's too little.
you know, just so people understand
Get a COLA, huh?
what, we're proposing for the president and the trustees is $25 a meeting, which,
15.
No, it's only-
No, well, the president is, yeah.
Yeah, I have 15. I mean, you,
15.
I don't know what you're proposing, but if you told Ann that already,
15 is what you had said.
yeah.
so what is it now?
$15 increase.
$15 a meeting?
Yep.
Okay. And I have no problem justifying that. All these people have to do more work. The water's been very demanding, the sewer's been, the road, the police. There's just more work everywhere. So anyhow, I think this is fair. We also, that's not part of this, there will be also increases going to the clerk and to the treasurer. that doesn't have to be handled at the public hearing.
No, because that's a separate motion.
Yep, so, that's just part of the budget.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything you need here more?
No, just somebody to
set a
set the,
public hearing.
yeah.
All right, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to set a public hearing on the proposed ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 8, Section 8-1 of the Village Code of Ordinances to change the compensation for the village president and trustees for Monday, March 25th, 2024 at 7:00 PM, and authorize the Armada clerk to publish notice of the public hearing in the record.
Support.
Do we need a roll call on
No,
that?
no roll.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion's approved. Okay, update the village engineering standards for water, sewer, and storm sewer.
All right, we talked a little bit about this at the last meeting. Our engineering standards right now are not only out of date, but we can't find them, which is not a good position to be in. I think I mentioned that back in 2019, when we did the water system sanitary survey, when Eagle conducted that, we did know where a copy was, and they said they're out of date, and at least the water department needs to get its part done. So knowing that, I asked Paul to put together a quote, which I think was extremely reasonable, to do water, sewer, and I think we're doing storm basins as well as part of this. Hopefully nobody thinks this is a bad idea. We're well overdue to get this stuff updated. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the February 9, 2024 quote from Rural PSC to update our water and sewer engineering detail sheets, AKA engineering standards, at a cost of $2,750, and to allow the water commissioner to sign the quote for the village.
Was this in the budget for this year?
It was in my budget to do my engineering standards. I don't know that it was necessarily in Steve's.
Okay.
But the
And
cost-
you're
the cost
talking
is-
about splitting
The
the
cost
cost?
is pretty.
Yeah, it would be,
minimal.
well, Chris, full disclosure, I guess I'll tell you that before you came in, the question was, do you want to pay for your storm basin piece? Which makes the cost about $919 a piece.
Before we do discussion, do we have a second to that motion?
I'll support.
Okay, motion by Belkey, supported by.
Of course, we're gonna love you either way you go. But if you want
So now these standards, is this something that they would have at the sewer plant, they would have at the DPW plant?
It's like if somebody comes in and wanted to build a new subdivision or something, they would know what kind of water lines, what kind of valving, size of pipes, and so on.
That kind of,
it's, right. And
so that would be something that we maintain in the central office.
I would
Yeah.
wanna keep a copy up here too, just because we're not
I
very
should have more
computerized in
copy.
the DPW shop, and I don't wanna lose it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we certainly would have one at the DPW.
Yeah.
When we did with you Eagle, the water sewer projects that we did, that big book that we had to have corrected so many times because the engineers didn't know what they were doing, isn't it in that?
I don't know,
I don't know
I've
where
asked
that book
Dave,
is.
and then I asked, since he couldn't find it, to get a copy here. I think that was part and parcel of, to the transition between outgoing and, incoming DPW superintendent. They missed that somehow, and we couldn't find a copy up here. I asked Paul, and Paul found a copy from 2004, which is well out of date, needs to be updated, but he was able to help me as I did looking at lead service line issues and so on. But it's out of date, so I don't even quite know the book you're talking about, but
It's the one that we got from the, I can't think of their names.
Giffords Webster.
Yes. And everything was so erroneous, we kept having to send it back to them, and they'd wait till just past the deadline
Yeah.
before they'd get to us, and then we'd have it changed. But look in your office, it might be in there. I know it was in my possession for majority of that
Really?
project.
Yeah, we ought
But
to,
I think that was more reporting than what standards were to be.
That was all
Oh, yeah.
supposed to be in there.
it could be in there,
But like you said, it's outdated, but
yeah.
I still have to see.
Yeah,
I
so
see
David,
track of it.
yeah, it may be in there, but I
Well, if
I don't know,
Giffords did
I've-
it, it was well after 2004, because Giffords came in after me,
yeah.
yeah.
So we ready to vote?
Alright.
All in favor of
No,
that?
no.
roll call.
I'm sorry.
Roll call.
Belkey,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes?
Sleds,
Yes.
Adair,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yep, yes.
here.
Yeah, right. I'm barely here.
Barely here.
Okay, budget amendments, Ann's favorite thing. Take her away, Ann.
Let's see. These were on the streets. We had some shortfalls, mainly due to Lathrop Street. So we had to move some money around. And you can see it involved local and uni. Uni had to cover that shortfall. And we probably should have done it before we finalized their prices, but we need to do it now to get it in line.
So the motion's there.
Who wants to make the motion?
Could somebody make this motion?
Is this the same as what we finalized tonight earlier?
No,
Because this is, like- this is.
that's for next year.
Yeah,
No,
that's-
I know,
this is
but
this
it would change beginning balances in this upcoming next year.
I've looked at that
Okay,
already,
so we're all good?
right, for
Then-
next year's balance.
Yeah.
Then I would resolve to approve the attached budget amendments as presented, which brings the total estimated fund balances for the local street fund from $6,424.60 to $3,084.60. And the municipal street fund from $100,001.60 to $80,001.60.
Support.
60 cents.
Motion by Adair, supported by Sleds.
I'd like to keep it to the balance.
This could be just a vote.
Yeah,
right?
yep.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion's approved. Okay. The upcoming agenda items. I think,
I'll bring back the DTE electrical. I'm gonna hold off on the contractor
Okay,
thing
all right.
till I get some inputs.
The next meeting is the PA 33 public hearing.
Okay.
Next meeting's David's what? April
The
5th.
11th, March 11th. I believe.
Yeah,
That's
Say that
correct.
I
The
didn't want to
25th is
know.
right.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Okay, we got the upcoming agenda items, citizen comments.
It goes to citizen, not citizens now.
Got citizen comment, council comments. Okay, we got any community events coming up? No. So, no closed session. Could I have a motion?
All right, Joe, you got the view of the clock. It's your
I
job now.
move to close the village meeting of March 26th.
February
February.
26th.
Yeah, we're talking March. Okay, February 26, 2024 at 8:04 PM.
All in
Support.
fa-
Support.
Support
Yeah.
by Ross,
All right.
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, all opposed, motion's are carried.